Welcome everyone to Have History Will Travel. I am your host, the Wilder Historian, and when one thinks of a major defeat, many people's minds dart directly to the Battle of Waterloo, where Napoleon was solidly defeated by coalition forces. But some are looking at that battle and realizing that Napoleon faced another opponent, thousands of miles away, a volcano. After coming out of exile, Napoleon Bonaparte reclaimed authority in France. The Congress of Vienna declared him an outlaw, and the commander knew that he needed to act fast if he was to keep his power because a coalition force of British, Austrian, Prussian, and Russian troops would bear down on him and his armies as soon as they mobilized. Like any good commander, when facing a numerically superior enemy, Napoleon sought to destroy the coalition forces in detail. He set his eyes on the Prussian contingent south of Brussels. If he could defeat them before the English could link up with that army, then he could defeat each army individually. It was a bold plan, but Napoleon was a bold commander, and he fought in enough wars and battles to understand the gravity of the situation. Napoleon's army made contact with a portion of the Prussian force, but a series of miscommunications resulted in the enemy getting away from the French troops, who pursued, but only after considerable delay. Next, Napoleon moved toward Wellington's English troops. However, the weather had been unseasonably wet with heavy rains, which slowed down the French army. Furthermore, during the fight, artillery was having a hard time maneuvering because the rain brought about a thick mud. Had Napoleon been able to march unimpeded toward the English forces, he may have been able to defeat them before the Prussian army could link up with Wellington. But what caused the abnormal rainfall? Well, for that, we need to travel around the world, thousands of miles to Indonesia, where a few months before the Battle of Waterloo, a volcano erupted. Geologists have been studying the impact that volcanoes have on the environment, and a fairly recent study provides us with some great insight about the impact of volcanoes on the weather and subsequently people. As one article states, previously geologists believed that volcanic plumes were propelled by buoyancy into the stratosphere up to 31 miles above the Earth's surface, but no higher than that. Matthew Genge used computer modeling to show that electrostatic forces can lift ash all the way up into the ionosphere, between 50 and 600 miles above the Earth's surface. In a statement, Genge explains that volcanic plumes and ash both can have negative electrical charges, and thus the plume repels the ash, propelling it high into the atmosphere. The effect works very much like the way two magnets are pushed away from each other if their poles match. The electrically charged particles go into the ionosphere and create clouds, which create rain and can impact landscapes and environments thousands of miles away from the volcanic eruption, and that is the fairly immediate effect. By the next year, so much debris was in the atmosphere that it blocked out the sun in large sections of the northern hemisphere and made 1816 known as the year without a summer. When we take into account the impact of volcanoes on the environment, it is reasonable to correlate the unusual rain experienced on the Waterloo battlefield as stemming from the Indonesian volcano's eruption. Of course, there are many mistakes that occurred on the battlefield, and no historian would point to the weather as the sole factor in determining the Battle of Waterloo. But when military historians study tactics and strategies of military commanders, they should factor in the weather as a significant component of a campaign, or as the famed military theorist Karl von Clausewitz would call it, friction for the army. I will hopefully be doing some animated battle maps in March, but beginning in April, I will be finishing up the series on Shiloh. Last year I put together the first day's fight, and now I will finish the second day. Thank you all so much for watching and supporting the channel. If you'd like to vote on the next battle, consider joining the Patreon for as little as $1, and you can cast your vote. Thank you all again, and have a great day.